Hello, 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 guys. Welcome to our very special live event, a Mooncast, which I have not done in a really long time, actually, in here. I do them all the time inside the lab, but I haven't done one here for you guys. And this one, I felt like I had to make an exception for this upcoming full moon, which is going to happen tonight, this evening, depending on where you are, of course. But it is one that's going to be kind of having some critical aspects to it. And we've already been navigating, I think, quite a bit of stuff, especially since around Halloween when we had Mars go retrograde in Gemini. And Mars is going to be playing a big part, actually, in this particular full moon. So if you've been really struggling with your energy levels, with your ability to focus, with feeling kind of burnt out or agitated. There's a lot going on, and I wanted to just take a moment in the group and talk a little bit about what's happening and what it's kind of culminating towards, especially this evening with this full moon in Gemini. So I'd love to hear how you guys are doing. Hopefully I can hear comments. I think I have to have you guys just give Ecamm permission to let me see you. But yeah, so there's a lot going on, and I wanted to kind of just dive into it, and hopefully I can actually see comments on here, which is really weird. I'm seeing the hearts though. Okay, yay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry I can't see your name, but she said thank you, challenging energies. Absolutely. So we're navigating quite a bit of stuff right now, and I want to actually just take a moment. Oh, it just looks like it's delayed. Happy to be here. Quite a hard week. Feeling focused, but I'm in the UK. You'll still be experiencing this, but again, Mars retrograde in general. Before we get into the full moon energy that we're building towards tonight, Mars energy, retrograde energy in general, is going to affect everybody a little bit differently. It's going to depend on where Gemini is in your chart in terms of what houses. If you already have Mars retrograde natally in your chart, so there's going to be a percentage of people who will have that. And this is going to be more how you naturally operate. So while everybody else globally is collectively losing their shit, you're probably like, this is fine. Everything's good. I feel really good. And because Mars is going to retrograde approximately every 2 years. In this case, it's going to be retrograde all the way until January 12th. It's been retrograde since about Halloween. And it's going to stay in Gemini all the way until March 25th. So it's going to, by all said and done, it'll be spending 7 months in Gemini. And that's a lot of time for Mars, which is a really relatively inflammatory planet, to be in the sign of Gemini, which rules our thinking. And it rules our ability to communicate and kind of pull cohesive thoughts together, to make decisions, to absorb information. It also rules things like media and transportation and commerce. So all of our business stuff is being affected by this, especially with Mars being retrograde in what we're going to call Mercury's sign, right? Because Mercury naturally rules Gemini. So it's kind of like a Mercury retrograde on steroids, and it's prolonged, right? Because usually when we have Mercury retrograde, it lasts about 3 weeks. We have like a pre-shadow on either side, 9 weeks in total, but the worst of it is about 3 weeks long, whereas this is much, much longer, going from Halloween all the way till January 12th. So we're really spending a lot of energy. A lot of our physical energy is kind of being taken up by these more exacerbated Gemini qualities, right? Because Mars is going to turn the heat up, even if it's retrograde. And so in terms of things like nervous systems, sleep, decision making, feeling more frazzled than usual, anxiety, indecision, all those things are really going to be kind of amplified. And we're kind of coming up towards a climax of that with this full moon. And I'm going to show you exactly why. I'll share my screen and we can kind of take a look at what's going to be happening leading into this evening. We're already feeling it, but it's going to kind of have its culmination point tonight. Been having a really tough time, unusually so this time. Yes, absolutely. It's a doozy, and I'm sorry I can't see your name. I think it's I wish I could post it in here, but I can't. I can't even comment on my own thing. But there should be like a link, hopefully, at the top of this video. Sorry, hit with a sudden wave of exhaustion today, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. I am a Gemini sun. Okay, so depending on the degree of your sun, this might be kind of coming up. You may have close contact with this full moon and Mars as well. Will that be natal or transit? Well, it would be. This is the transits we're talking about, but it is going to impact your natal chart in some way. How significantly so it does that would really depend on if you have placements like in Gemini or in Sagittarius, for example, or in some more of the mutable signs. So in Pisces or in Virgo as well, that would be kind of squaring off with this energy. Gemini sun here, third house. Yeah, so it depends. Like if you look at the degree of your sun, this full moon is taking place at 16 degrees. I tend to kind of work with about a 3-degree orb on either side. So if you have anything around 13 to 19 degrees in your chart, it's going to hit you more than the average person. Oh, in Switzerland. Okay. So it'll be much later for you, kind of probably early morning for the full moon. I'm a Gemini moon. I can confirm all the exhaustion and anxiety. Yeah, I'm a Gemini rising, and it's hitting us pretty hard, guys. Okay, I'm going to go and share my, not that one, this one. I'm going to share my screen. I don't know if it's gonna kick me out. Okay. Hopefully you guys can still hear me okay. It's asking me to like update my audio, and now's not a good time for that. So hopefully you guys can see this all right. I'm actually just going to minimize this so that I can see what I'm looking at. Okay, so let me see here. Can I draw? Well, I don't know if it's going to let me draw on here. Okay, so some things to keep in mind with what's happening, and I apologize, I'm a little disoriented because I don't usually use this, and it's like showing me double screen. So if I look like I'm like kind of like I'm being dragged along here a little bit, this is why. Okay, so here we can see, but with this chart, hopefully you can see it okay. We've got the moon here at 16 degrees. We've got the sun at 16 degrees. So this is at the exact moment of the full moon. You can ignore the houses. I just drew it for my current location. Where, you know, depending on your natal chart, it's going to be showing up in a different house, or depending on where you're located, if you were to be drawing it for your current time zone, it's going to show up a little bit differently. But what is going to stay the same is all the aspects and the location of the planets in terms of their degrees and signs. So we can see here that this full moon is taking place at 16 degrees. It's in a mutable sign. So mutable essentially just means change. That there's something is in the process of changing or evolving, and potentially quite rapidly, especially under a Gemini moon. So it's possible that, you know, in terms of how you might be experiencing this, is that we're getting like this massive influx of information, a lot of rapid thinking, maybe too much in terms of thinking in order to be able to actually do anything effective with it. That's going to be part of a problem. And then with the sun in Sagittarius, we're kind of, there's a little bit of an inflated thinking that's kind of happening here, like big ideas versus the really micro stuff. So it's likely a combination of being overwhelmed by both big picture and small picture stuff, and that tends to, you know, create this. I would say this stretching in terms of anxiety. There's other things that are kind of happening here as well. Astrologically, I don't want to go too complex in here because I don't want to lose you, but there's something called out of bounds, and planets can be out of bounds. The only ones that cannot be out of bounds are the Sun, Saturn, and Neptune. Some of the other planets will more rarely go out of bounds, but in this case, with this full moon, we not only have the moon out of bounds, we also have Mercury and Venus out of bounds as well, and we have Mars out of bounds. And when planets in general are out of bounds, they're operating beyond predictability, let's say that. Out of bounds is more of a measurement in terms of what their latitude, their ellipsis, and how far they kind of stray from their common path. And it tends to happen in Gemini and in Sagittarius, as well as Cancer and Capricorn. And so we can see here Venus and Mercury are in, Venus is in Sagittarius, Mercury is in Capricorn, we've got the moon in Gemini, and we've got Mars in Gemini. So when we have out of bounds planets, things are just really being stretched to their absolute limits of the themes or the messages or the what those planets rule in general. In this case, Mars has already been really taxing us and stretching us with its retrograde motion. And in this case, with this particular full moon, which is making this so intense, is that the moon is conjunct Mars. And there's going to be actually quite a more rare astrological or astronomical event that's going to be happening tonight, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But the Mars is actually going to experience what we would call an eclipse, where the moon is actually going to cross in front of it, like we would have, an eclipse with the sun and the moon. You can actually have them with planets. And most of North America and some of Europe will actually be able to see that, depending on where you are. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a summary on that, because it's quite a unique thing to be able to witness. But it's also just, in this case, I would take it almost as, if we were thinking of what our ancestors might have viewed that as, when you have the moon crossing in front of another planet. Just like the sun, it's kind of hiding something, right? It's hiding something from us. And in this case, the moon it rules our emotions, and it rules our behaviors and our patterns and our habits, our ability to kind of emotionally focus on things. In this case, it's kind of eclipsing the frustrations that we're potentially experiencing with Mars. And when we have planets, these are planets that are also out of bounds, it can really amplify mental anxiety hugely. Like, this was already going to be doing it to begin with, but now that we have these all out of bounds, including Mercury, and Mercury is preparing to kind of slowly enter its pre-retrograde shadow. There is some big stuff going on with this full moon. So if you're feeling really stretched, if you're feeling like your energy is just kind of in the gutter, or it's really amped up, right? Because it can have a counter effect. What we're experiencing here is it really depends on the state of your adrenal system, your nervous system. If you're already kind of like running on empty, it's really going to drain it. And if you're kind of super wired, it's going to only amplify that further. So, depending whether it depresses or it creates anxiety is going to be more unique to you. But if you are experiencing that, I think the most helpful thing to look at with this is that it's going to pass. We are, again, navigating quite a lot here. What this can also do is moon conjunct Mars, especially at a full moon. Full moons in general tend to kind of amplify a lot of things that we have going on. We're much more aware at this point in time in the lunar cycle. And in this case, it can make our actions more impulsive. And the problem with this is that, one, we don't have all of the full picture. Like as I mentioned, the moon is going to be eclipsing Mars. So something's kind of being hidden from us. This is not the best time to make really big decisions. You do not have all the information. Gemini also represents media. Mars can represent war. And so in terms of media, in terms of like globally what we're experiencing, we may notice that there's it could be like propaganda, it could be misinformation in terms of media around war or potential war acts. It can be highlighted with this. The moon also represents the public, right? So the public is kind of being a little bit maybe used or deceived in some way with something that's happening here. And we can also see things like war-like words, where people tend to be, especially on social media, which again is ruled by Gemini. We can see people getting into fights on social media. We can see misunderstandings. So this is definitely not the time to kind of get into a battle with anybody, even if they're incredibly wrong, because it's just not going to end well. What we are also experiencing here is we can see that Venus and Mercury are also conjunct each other. It's a little bit of a loose conjunction, but they are. So our heart and our minds are kind of acting as one, and yet they're still in completely different signs. Like Sagittarius is really about wanting freedom, growth. We're really feeling a lot more spontaneity and creativity, whereas Mercury is really wanting something that's a lot more secure. We're trying to make more secure plans, and yet we can see here with this full moon, especially with its interaction with Mars, we do not have all the information that we need to do that yet. And it's also at 1 degree Capricorn, which makes it really, really early on. So there's something here that where you're trying to potentially make longer term financial decisions possibly, and yet your heart wants freedom. It doesn't want rigid structures. And so there's kind of a little bit of a conflict there, and yet they also kind of technically want the same thing. They're moving together. Even though the way that they're expressing themselves is a little bit different. The mind is going to go for more tangible security, and the heart is going to go for more freedom, and yet there is a craving for both of these simultaneously. From the place of business, from a place of being a CEO, Sun at 16 degrees in Sagittarius, this is the period where we get to kind of, especially with Moon, Mars, Venus, and Mercury all being out of bounds, this is a great time to explore stretching the boundaries of what you believe is possible, especially since Sun in Sagittarius can rule our belief systems. There is an aspect here of like the sky is the limit in terms of what we can envision, and that maybe, just maybe, there is some opportunities here that we're not aware of quite yet, that are kind of being occluded, like the Moon and Mars, but that will be revealed as we move along if we're willing to lean into what our deepest desires are. What we're passionate about, what excites us, what feels fulfilling for us from a business perspective. We can also see here in this chart that there is the Moon and Mars are squaring Neptune, and Neptune is also squaring not only the Sun, but it's also squaring Venus and Mercury. And this is creating what we call a T-square. And T-squares create a lot of tension. And Neptune is the one that, it creates fog, right? It makes it really hard to kind of determine what's real and what's not real. And the challenge with this is that, again, we're feeling this pressure, especially with Mercury, as it prepares to kind of enter review mode when it moves into retrograde. We're wanting some kind of solid ground to stand on. We're wanting some truth. We're wanting some evidence. We're wanting some real data, facts. And we don't have them. We're not being given them yet. And it's creating a great deal of frustration here, especially since when you have too much information and not enough implementation, you get a lot of agitation, right? You get this feeling of stuckness, we get this feeling of overwhelm. And so this can be kind of creating a little bit of a pressure cooker in terms of a lot of what we're experiencing right now. The other thing that's happening here is Chiron is trining the Sun. So there is some opportunities here for a great deal of healing through taking action and feeling capable around the things that you do actually have control over. So we may not have control over that big picture. We may not have control over whether we manifest the things that we want to manifest in terms of the bigger dreams. We may not have control over getting that information that we deeply want right now. But we do have control over smaller things within us, especially the way that we treat ourselves, that you're not hard on yourself right now. This is also potentially an opportunity to really notice some of the heavier patterns that you have going on, and how you react when you feel like you're behind, how you react when you feel like you're not meeting your responsibilities or your expectations of yourself. Because there's going to be a lot of that going on, right? Like we can see here, especially with all this Gemini energy. Gemini is going to be operating very quickly, right? It has all the ideas, it has all the plans, it wants to just like have it done yesterday. And yet we can see here that, the sun is sitting in Sagittarius, and it says, it's not time for all this implementation yet, because we don't have a strategy. Right? We haven't come up with the dream that makes you feel really excited about 2023. You haven't come up with how this is going to be different than what you've done before. And, for the past year, we've had some real challenges with being able to change habits and behaviors. And that has a lot to do with the nodes, especially North Node being in Taurus. We've had Uranus in Taurus, so there's been a lot of change to our norms, and we don't want more change. We're actively resisting it. That will change come the middle of next year, around July, when we have that nodal shift. But between now and then, we're kind of holding pretty tightly to what's familiar, and yet we're also equally experiencing some dissatisfaction here. Now, something that is kind of grounding this moon, fortunately, is the fact that we've got Saturn trining it in Aquarius. And Aquarius is that big picture. It's also technology and advancement, and it's a fixed sign. So it's providing a lot of stability that we're currently not necessarily seeing with this moon, right? This moon feels very unstable. A lot of things within your life, within your business, are going to feel very unstable right now. And that's not a comforting feeling as we're moving in, as we're beginning to wrap up this year, and as we're trying to figure out what we're going to be doing for 2023. But the benefit of full moons and new moons and the lunar cycle in general is that it's temporary. So whatever you're feeling right now, the goal here essentially is just trying to get through the next couple of days without being so hard on yourself, without forcing your hand, without trying to hustle yourself into meltdown, without the judgment and the high expectations, because this is not the time for that. We can see here with this particular full moon that this is a time of great change and great transition. And because of that, we have to be open to what is in motion for us right now. And that means no solid plans just yet. So I do want to talk a little bit about the location of where this lunar Mars eclipse is going to be happening. But first, I'd like to just take some questions. And I noticed that there's some comments here and they just disappeared. Where are we? Okay. Perfect. Marina, hey, I've been very stressed and that's causing me to stay awake at night trying to figure stuff out. I am a Gemini. Yeah, it's just going to be like super amplified. I really feel it for any Geminis right now, especially any mutables. So Geminis, Virgos, Pisces, and Sagittarius, or anybody who has strong placements in there is going to be getting hit pretty hard with this in general. And sorry, my camera is like all weird. I don't know what's going on. Because they're going to be experiencing some squares potentially. Okay, this is going to be in my second house. So finances, big changes around finances probably. So this would not be a good time to solidify my goals for 2023, more so to continue to think on them. You can think about them. This is a good time to stretch your ideas of what's possible and to get kind of into the CEO position, which is like CEO slash dreamer slash visionary slash architect. But the way that we're kind of approaching this, as we move in a little bit more and we get closer towards the end of the year, it will get a little bit more solid. Like when we get into around the 21st, especially, it's going to get a little bit more solid. We're going to have Sun's going to enter Capricorn. And we're also going to be having Mercury retrograde in Capricorn. Traditionally Mercury retrograde is not necessarily the best time to make solid commitments, but it is a good time for reviewing and analyzing a lot of stuff, right? Especially your bigger plans. And then it's going to be direct into the new year. So we're going to have that opportunity to kind of set all that stuff in place for sure. And if you're planning to attend Cosmic Planning Extravaganza, we're going to go over all of that. So that's coming up. I'm going to be sharing more details about that. I've been getting lots of questions. It's always held on solstice. This is going to be the 5th annual. And we basically spend like 3 to 4 hours going over the entire year of all the stuff, the whole plan, the launches and everything. You're welcome. I'm all mutable, Gemini rising, Virgo sun, Pisces moon. Holy crap, you're me. That's hilarious. I can't see your name, but you and me, we're the same. We're the same. We're getting hit real hard with this. Any ideas how to mitigate the square of planets are in Virgo? Notice what, so if we have squares essentially are where we're being told that, like, we're being forced to let go of something that's not working. And that could be, your expectations potentially. Especially with Virgo placements, you're going to be really hard on yourself. Like, we are the perfectionists of the zodiac for good reason, right? Like we nitpick worst at ourselves. And so usually I would say if you're having a square to something in Virgo, something about your expectations has to give, right? And if you don't, it's just going to crush you. Like it will just obliterate you anyway. So it's like, yes, we can try to hold hard and fast to what those expectations are, but ultimately we're not going to win. So it's really best to kind of just see what wants to change right now. Maybe it's like your approach, maybe it's like your personalized expectations around a project or your own standards for your particular work. Something's got to give in there. It could be also just a change of plans. Right. So if you've got like some hard and fast deadlines and you're approaching them quickly and you're probably not going to reach them, then it's good to kind of just acknowledge that, right? If anything, that's something that we've been learning over the past couple of years is that, yeah, your plans are nice, but Sag rising. Yeah. So the sun is going to either be 12th or first house for you. And so you're going to have either this full moon is either going to be 6th or 7th house for you. So relationships and deep psychology. You're welcome. I am sun caps. I think I'll hold off then to solidify. Okay, good. So you're going to have a solar return then around that point. So that's a new cycle for you anyway, which is awesome. It's in my money house and I'm actually feeling empowered to change the things I'll present, programs, 101 podcast, other things. I'm taking action on it. Should I not take action on these ideas yet? No, it's okay. Just be willing to kind of to adapt on the fly. All right. So if you're doing stuff and it's like hitting a wall, don't force it. This is not like a power through period. This is like, we're kind of building stuff in real time as we go along. And so that's kind of the best way to look at it. As we get into, the later part of this month, it's going to solidify a little bit more, but we're still going to be under review because of Mercury retrograde. I'm new to everything is whatever house Mars is in. It would be different for you. You'd want to try to find you'd want to pull up your birth chart and you want to find where Gemini is, and look and see what houses those are. I won't get into explaining like degrees and stuff right now because it would just be too complex, but you'd want to match the Gemini sign, which looks like, like the 2, like the Roman numeral 2. that's what you'd want to try and locate in your chart and just see what houses that is, because your chart's going to be divided into like 12 pizza slices. You want to find out which ones possibly. Both Moon and Mars will be in my 4th house, so home and family potentially. It could also, Mars's movement through there could indicate considering moving possibly, but it's still in flux right now because it's retrograde. Gemini Sun, Pisces rising, Sag Moon. Okay, so you got 3 of the 4 mutables there. So your sun and your moon are potentially getting affected by this full moon. In my 5th house, so that's the things that you create and the things that ultimately make you popular, and it could be your children as well, and just how you generally have fun. You're welcome. Gemini Sun in 8th. Okay, so 8th house is a resources house. So there's an assessment of your resources, essentially, how you go about getting those needs met. It's the big portion of it's going to be financial, but there's other things in there too, right? Like the things that hold us back are going to be in there. The skills that we need to develop are going to be in there. Other assets that we have, for sure. You're welcome. Maureen says, I'm almost the same. Pisces Sun, Gemini Sun, Sag rising. Yeah, all these mutables. That's why you guys are here today. You're like, something's going on. Mercury is in my 7th. Okay, so relationships, potentially contracts, as well as how you delegate things and the systems. So like after you have your systems developed, where does the overflow go? Like what does it look like in real practical terms in your business? So that's going to be something that's probably going to be under review. Moon's in 6th house for me. Okay, so that's your systems and your clients and your health, mental health, physical health, like nervous system, digestive system, your routines, daily work, all of that's like shoved in there into 6 because we don't do anything lightly in the 6th house. Pretty sure I'm a Gemini rising. My birth time is not known, but rectification brought us to this. Okay, so that's good. And you'll know too, like Gemini rising, we tend to look younger than we are. We tend to have like more narrow faces, more narrow noses, because it's like your ascendant is how you're actually viewed, right? So it can tell a lot about what you look like as well. That's another way to look at rectification. Sheila says, Virgo Sun, Gemini Moon, Leo rising. What? That's hilarious. You've got the Virgo and the Gemini. You got the Leo rising though, so it allows you to come. That's why you got the full beautiful mane of gorgeous hair. All our rising signs tell us a lot about how we're going to show up. The Leo is probably going to be stabilizing you a little bit with this because your sun is potentially getting squared and your moon is potentially having a return around this, or at least in the vicinity of this full moon in some way, depending on the degree. Can you share with us the website you use for finding your charts? This one that I just used is actually a piece of software that it's a good one, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend purchasing it. It has its issues and I'm kind of a little grumpy about it. But you can draw them for free. And one of the best places to do that is astro-seek.com. I really, really love them, even better than astro.com. Because you can get very exact, especially when it comes to transits. And they do all kinds of stuff in there. They do stuff in there that a lot of paid software does, and they do it better. So I hope that helps. You're very welcome. I have Gemini in my 8th and Mars at 15 degrees. Is your Mars at 15 degrees Gemini? Let me know, because that's going to be potentially a Mars return for you too. So this retrograde is going to be giving you like potentially multiple returns there. The Moon in Mars is also in an exact trine to my Jupiter at 16 Aquarius in the 4th. Okay, so your Jupiter is going to be also getting hit by Saturn as well in the 4th. So that's probably offering some stabilization there for you. Especially with the trine, your home environment is going to be really grounding to some of the things that you're navigating with this full moon and Mars retrograde. Also, they are in exact opposition to Uranus in Sag. Okay. Okay, so Uranus could be giving you a little bit of a bumpy ride then in the second house of finances. There could be some upending there, some changes. But Uranus, the thing that I look at Uranus a little bit differently. I know some astrologers are like, oh, it's very unpredictable. It is unpredictable. But if you're comfortable with unpredictable, it's awesome because it brings in exactly what you need, like divine timing, just very quick. So things that potentially might normally have taken a long time don't need to take a long time with Uranus. So as long as we are listening and we're paying attention and we're on the right path, then things just line up with Uranus, right? Like boom, boom, boom. But if we're not and we're resisting it and we're kind of craving that security, it's just going to make sure that you know it upends what it needs to, and that may be very, very stressful if you're attached to how things kind of are. But you're with your Uranus and Sag in the second, you're probably not very attached to stuff. Your approach to finances is also going to be quite unique as well. Gemini is in my 6th house, and Jupiter is in Gemini. Okay, so depending on how close your Jupiter is, it could be getting hit by this full moon. That's a nice combination, actually. It might bring you some more business, or at least some business ideas, or some shifts in how you're running your business, possibly. Not sure if it covered Sag moon at 16 degrees. So that would be where this sun is. This sun is going to be on your moon. Here's the thing about sun conjunct natal moon. It's a raw fucking period of a couple of days, potentially a week. So not only are you having that happen, but you're also having it happen during a full moon. That's also in opposition to Mars. So potentially, at least for me, I know for myself, like my moon is in Pisces. So when the sun is over it, I am like a fucking puddle for like a week. I'm just a mess. It's like it just opens everything up and all of the Piscean stuff just comes out. And as a Virgo, I usually have that stuff quite under control. So it's a giant puddly mess for about a week for me. For yours under Sagittarius, it might just open up like, some of it could be like resistance. It could be some new brilliant ideas that kind of come through. It could be like the rebel of like, the giant FU. There could be all kinds of layers in there, but it's going to be raw and kind of vulnerable potentially. Moon Mars in 5th. Okay, I'm not sure what sign that's in, and I'm sorry I can't see your name. The full moon's in my 12th house. Okay, so that is definitely going to be opening up a lot of deeper psychological stuff for you. It's going to probably make this a little bit harder because we cannot consciously like address what's in the 12th house. It's hidden from us. So the best way to do that is definitely through like dreams and working within that, or like paying attention to your intuition, or even some ways of noticing it, because potentially the way your anxiety shows up is like you're almost not conscious of it. And the way that, because this is also happening in my 12th house as well. I've got Gemini in there, and I'm also Gemini rising. So the way that it shows up for me is if I'm under a great deal of stress, and I'm aware of it, but I'm not aware of it, what I'll notice that I start to do is I start to pick at the skin around my nails, and I'll just like one day I'll be looking down and it's like bleeding, and I'm like, whoa, I'm under like a great deal of stress. And so it can show up that way. So just notice like what's going on in your body. Are you getting more headaches? Are you having trouble sleeping? Do you have like a lot of tension in the shoulders? Or like, muscle aches and pains? Are you like picking at yourself? Are you like skipping meals? Like what's happening there that you can kind of tune into and use that as your gauge to measure how much anxiety and stress is going on there. I'm a Scorpio sun and ascendant and a Cancer moon. I have 0 Gemini. You will have Gemini. Gemini is going to be in one of your houses for sure. Even if you don't have a planet in there, it's going to be in a house. So this full moon will be falling in one area of your life for sure. You're going to have something going on. And the other thing is we can also get into things like asteroids and, fixed stars and all that stuff inside the chart. So and you could also even look at like the cusps and all that. Like there's layers and layers of stuff in there. It's going to be impacting you one way or another. What you just want to do is just find out where Gemini is in terms of your houses. Not sure if this has been covered, but Mars and Moon are conjunct in Gemini in my 7th house at the moment. Okay, so 7th house is where it's falling in for you. So it could be relationships, could be partnerships, could be delegations, could be contracts, could be collaborations, could be, you needing to figure out better systems for your overflow, right? Like 7th house is like that overflow after we have the main systems, like the life support systems in the business taken care of. What happens next? Like what is the customer experience like? What is our retention like for our customers? What happens after the initial sale? Like, are you kind of like got like a circus act of like a one-hit wonder in terms of an offer? What comes next? Like there can be some things there that you may want to look at where you're going to be able to generate some ideas around. Aquarius Sun, Scorpio rising, Sag Moon. Okay, so the sun could potentially be on your moon or around there, which means that this full moon is opposing your moon. Moon opposite moon in general. We're going to go through that every month. Anytime the moon is in Gemini, it's going to be opposite your moon. And it tends to be, in this case, a little bit lower part of the cycle in general. But the sun being in there could also make you feel like a little bit more vulnerable than usual as well, right? Like the sun is a revealer. In this case, it's going to be on your moon. And that happens once a year. And it lasts for about a week, like 4 days for sure, 3 to 4 days for sure you'll be feeling it. And you'll just want to kind of see what house that's in to see what area of life is just going to feel super raw and vulnerable. Mine's in my 10th house, so when it happens, it's like super public for me. Like it affects how I work for sure. You're welcome, Sheila. I'm creeping on 50 and no one ever believes that, so that makes sense. There you go. We figured it out for you. Marina Harris says Gemini moon in Cancer, Capricorn rising. Okay, so sun in Gemini. So this will be happening in the same house as your sun. And the Mercury's movement will be in eventually through your rising sign, depending on the degree of your rising sign. Is going to be, it's going to be happening there essentially. So I would say probably right now, Mercury is in your 12th house. And then you've got this full moon is happening in the same sign as your sun sign. So you'd want to just kind of check out the house for that to see the area of life. And obviously, the closer that it is to your sun in terms of degree, the stronger it's going to be for you. There are a lot of Virgo suns, Gemini rising on this call. We're the planners. That's why. I'm a Virgo sun, Gemini rising, Scorpio moon. There you go. You and I have a lot in common. I'm a Pisces moon, but we got everything else in common. Both of us are water. You're welcome, Colleen. Can you say the site again? astro-seek.com. SEEK. Thank you. Scorpio sun, Aries moon, Taurus rising. I feel like I'm odd person out. No, definitely not. What's interesting, what I find is that the majority of people who are in this group are going to have strong placements where I have placements in my chart because that's how we connect. So not odd at all. Not odd at all. My Mars is in Scorpio and I've got my Chiron is in Taurus. So that's why. So healing is good there and action taking is going to be lit up there for sure. In this case, though, you're probably with Taurus rising, depending on your degree, you're having North Node and you're having Uranus moving through there. So whether it's currently in your first house or your 12th house, depending on the degree, is going to be bringing some big changes for you. For this, definitely this year, but probably for the past year as well. Like this coming year as well as the past year. If I'm reading it correctly, Gemini is in my 2nd and 3rd houses. Okay, so finances and communication. So your messaging, how you market, how you express yourself, your thinking, your perspectives, those are going to be big, and how you are going to be focusing on making income moving forward. So potentially some ideas around that, but also potentially some frustration because Mars is going to be there as well. Gemini sun, 7th house. Oops. There we go. Mercury in Taurus, Mars in Aquarius. Okay, so Gemini Sun is your 7th house is going to be hit by this full moon. So again, partnerships, collaborations, contracts, delegations, overflow. Mercury is in Taurus, so you're potentially having Uranus and North Node around there. Mars in Aquarius. Mars could potentially be getting impacted by Saturn, depending on the degree in there. I have ascendant in Gemini, sun in Gemini in my 12th house, Uranus and Scorpio. Okay, so this full moon, depending on your degree, is either in your 12th or your first house, where in the same, potentially in the same house as your sun. So this is a little bit more subconscious. That's the case for me as well. And so it's going to be showing up, like it may not show up immediately. It might be like you're going through some like deeper introspective processes of some sort, possibly. And maybe it shows up a little later or a little delayed or in a different way. Eva says, me too. I am Cap Sun rising and Aquarius moon. Okay, so you got Mercury moving through there right now. And then Saturn is going to be in the same sign as your moon. So that's going to offer some stability, but also some restriction, possibly. The interesting thing for you is that the traditional ruler for Capricorn and Aquarius is Saturn. So that's a very strong planet for you. And right now it's also in Aquarius, potentially within range of your moon. So this is a big period for stability for you, for sure. Jupiter in Gemini, 12th house. Okay, so you could be having, this could be within range of your Jupiter. 12th house, again, it's going to be more subconscious, but it's blessings. If it's interacting with your Jupiter, it's blessings. Hey, Dewi. Gemini Sun, Aquarius rising, Cancer moon. Okay, so Gemini Sun, this full moon is going to be happening in the same sign as your sun sign. Your Aquarius rising is going to be impacted by Saturn. Potentially it's in your 12th house or your first house right now. So that's building potentially some restrictions, but also some concrete commitment. And then Cancer, that one's not going to be as impacted in this case. We don't have, I think, anything in Cancer right now. So you're good there. But more the full moon would be potentially where your sun sign is. Yeah. Moon in Gemini, 20 degrees. Okay. Well, that is going to be, this is a lunar return for you. And it's going to be happening on the full moon with Mars. So Mars is going to be over your moon. That's going to be probably incredible amounts of pressure. Probably definitely for the past few weeks, but I would have also expected it probably back in October and November as well. This will pass. It's challenging, and it can bring in a lot of like deep frustration and anger and potentially where you're like attacking yourself or you're hard on yourself a lot. But this is the climax, right? That what we're under right now. Venus, 16 degrees, Gemini, 11th house. Okay, so it's going to be right on your Venus in 11th house. Really great time for community building for you. Excellent time. Excellent time. Just, you may go through some review and you may also experience some like online hate because of Mars there. But your Venus is there and it might actually make some really good chemistry there for you. Full moon is also in my 12th house. Yeah, so lots of deeper psychological stuff and processing. I can't say what that's going to look like. Like it's unknown even to me because that's where it is for mine as well. But thanks. I've been wondering why I'm more sensitive than usual. I've been a mess and things are just falling apart. The moon, Mars transiting 4th, and you mentioned moving. We'll be looking at moving. Not seriously, but like maybe. Yeah, it's still in review. You may find that you get more clarity on that around January 12th and between January 12th into March 25th, because that's when it's going to it'll be direct, but it'll be in Gemini moving forward. And will still be in your 4th. Gemini moon and Mars in 5th house. So stuff around creativity, you're potentially having this full moon occur on your moon, which makes it a lunar return. It's also going to be a Mars return for you as well, but it'll be retrograding. So depending on, like, it may have already happened or it may be happening. Potentially could happen more than once if it goes over the same degree. So you could technically have more than one Mars return. That's a resetting of motivations for the next 2 years. And it's also the beginning of a new lunar cycle for you, like a lunar birthday. So that's a new emotional cycle as well as potentially a new motivational cycle, which is for 2 years out. So, and in 5th house of creativity, that's how you get inspired, where you like to take action. You potentially come up with something new around that. 8th house, definitely stuff around resources, deeper fears, processing those fears, like finding solutions to them and kind of uncovering what's in there. 2nd house with Taurus sun and a Virgo moon. Okay, so finances for sure. Potentially new ideas around finances, frustration around finances, maybe feeling like finances are under attack a little bit. Taurus sun is going to be Uranus and North Node are going to be moving around in there. I don't know how close to your sun, but that would be bringing about some potential big changes. And being a Virgo moon, that your moon is potentially going to be getting squared off by this full moon. So this is potentially some upending or upheaval around the things that make you feel really secure and the things that you're probably pretty neurotic about. Virgos, we can be neurotic a little bit. Sun Capricorn, Moon Aquarius, Gemini is in my 12th. Okay, so this will happen in 12th house. Lots of unconscious stuff. Sun in Capricorn is going to be getting some nice visit essentially with Mercury, but you're also going to have the Mercury retrograde in there. So potentially some review, especially into the new year around like your what makes you stable, what you want to be committing to. Moon in Gemini, 20 degrees, 12th house. So it's going to be a lunar return for you within 4 degrees of this full moon. That's a pretty big deal. This is a reset, and it's going to kind of be expanded upon, especially with Mars there. I also have Venus for Cancer, Saturn at 15 degrees in Cancer. So we're not going to be hit by anything with Cancer, fortunately. It's a busy 12th house. What does that mean in terms of this full moon? Lots of unconscious shifting going on. You already operate that way anyway, with your moon being in there. So it's like, whenever we have stuff in the 12th house, planets in the 12th house, luminaries in the 12th house, they're kind of hidden from us. So it's almost like you may not know what you're feeling, or you kind of logicize your emotions because you can understand them a little bit better there, but they're still kind of hidden away a little bit, right? It's like you'll come out with this brilliant idea, you don't know where it came from, or you connect dots and it's not on your timetable, but it happens, and maybe it happens like without your conscious control, but like ideas come in there. Moon in 12th, also especially in Gemini, it could be like channeling information in, right? Like we're not in control of that, but there's a deeper connection there. You're welcome. Leslie said, oh, almost twins. I'm a Capricorn sun, Aquarius moon. There you go. You guys are finding each other in here. Leo ascendant, Sag sun, Gemini moon. Okay, so your sun and your moon you're having potentially a solar return soon, or you've already had it. And this full moon is potentially hitting your moon. So that's a pretty big deal. Depending on the houses that's in, that it's going to be a resetting of that house axis of wherever that's falling. Gemini sun, Virgo moon, Aquarius rising here. So your sun is going to be, wherever your sun is, that house-ish, those houses are going to be hit by this full moon. It's going to be squaring off with your moon. That's going to be probably presenting some stress there, but your Aquarius rising is going to be grounded by a little bit of Saturn there. So that will help a little bit in terms of creating some stability. I'm redoing my website and the technical aspects of the plans I had for my business in the new year. Very good. That's good. Lots of stuff around redoing. There may be some more revisiting of that between now and early next year because of Mercury retrograde, but this is a good time to kind of go over a lot of that. Pisces sun, Leo moon, Sag rising. Okay, so Pisces is going to be getting squared Leo moon is fine. Sag rising. So the sun is going to either be in your 12th house or your first house, and that puts this full moon either in your 6th or your 7th. So it could be your business systems or your relationships where that's falling. And then you're going to be having sun's move. Once sun gets out of 12th house, I don't know where it is for you right now, if it's in your 12th or your first yet. But if it's in your 12th, the energy is going to be a little lower. And then once it goes into your first house, you're going to feel that pick right up. Gemini is in the 6th and 7th house, so business systems and the polishing of offers, delegation, partnerships and things like that. Getting my cosmic ass kicked right now. Oh, I know. And what's hard too with this is like, it's basically like a giant, with Mars in there, it's basically like a giant Mercury retrograde right through your systems. All your systems are probably getting shot right now. Cap ascending, Cap sun, Moon Cancer, Mars Scorpio. Okay, so you're not you're not being your Mercury will probably be moving around your sun and your sun soon. That could bring some clarity potentially. The other ones are not being affected so much by this. Pisces sun, Cancer moon, and rising. Mars is in the 12th house right now. Okay, so your Pisces sun is probably getting squared off. And with Mars in the 12th, that also places this full moon in there right now. So some big shifts around deeper subconscious stuff, and it's opposing your desire to create more organized systems and your workflow. It's probably interrupting your workflow quite a lot. I'm a Virgo sun, Leo moon, Taurus rising, and Mercury's retrograde in my chart. Okay, so your Virgo sun is potentially getting squared off by this full moon. Depending on where it's falling for you, that those houses would be more affected. I'm not sure where those fall in terms of your house placement. But Mercury retrograde in your chart, that potentially means as we enter Mercury retrograde towards the end of this year and into early next year, that's a really powerful period for you and just getting a lot done, like organizing stuff, especially wherever you have Capricorn in your chart. The moon is transiting my 8th and my 9th house. No planets in either my natal chart. Aquarius sun, Libra moon, and rising. Okay, so your Aquarius sun is going to be potentially getting some grounding from Saturn. This full moon being in 8th and 9th, that's focused on resources and also like how you show up publishing, potentially doing some big review or ideas around your messaging and what you kind of want to be known for, what you're teaching and what you're putting out there. Pisces sun, Aries moon. Okay, so Pisces is going to be getting squared potentially from this full moon. So this is potentially challenging, in terms of Pisces, especially like how you process information is probably going to be getting affected. I have Mercury in Gemini, 13 degrees. Okay, this would be in the 11th house. Okay, so this is going to be hitting your Mercury in the 11th house. It could potentially create some disagreements because Mars is in place. Like if Mars wasn't there retrograding, I'd be like, it's a good time. But with Mars in there, just be really careful with social media stuff right now, especially like I would say around the next week. You could get into some disagreements or people just take things wrong, but you could also build something more behind the scenes for your community and start to prepare putting that out there. 5th house, 14 degrees, Gemini, 6, and you've got Uranus at 6 degrees. Okay. 14, no, Gemini. Sorry, I hope I'm reading that right. 5th house. So is your Uranus at 14 degrees? If so, in the 5th house, this is going to bring you potentially some like really rockin' stuff's going to be happening there. Because Mars is going to be opposing it, possibly. And it's going to shake up kind of how you do things for sure. But it could also, if you're not in resistance, it could be bringing you some really brilliant ideas. You're very welcome. Mercury will be in my 11th house. Is that for the retrograde or? Mars is in Cancer, but also in my third. Okay, you don't have to worry about where your Mars is unless there's like an interaction with it. In this case, it's not going to be interacting so much in there, but you could look where, like where Gemini is. And I'm sorry, I can't see names. It just is not showing me. This is exactly on my husband's Mercury at 16 degrees, 8th house. What does that mean? It could be stuff around finances, for sure. It could be potentially some deeper processing, communication, healing. It could also present some mental frustrations because Mars is going to be conjunct his Mercury. And the 8th, potentially around financial pressures or debt as well. Debt can come up in there as well with 8th house. Sun in Gemini is 28 degrees in 4th house. This is pretty far from that, so you won't have to worry about that. Moon is in Sag, 19 degrees, 9th house. Okay, so it's going to be within 3 degrees of your moon. That will be an opposition that puts Sun on your moon right now. You're probably feeling pretty raw and exposed a little bit, but there's also a faith element to this for you as well. Like it might be reconnecting you in terms of your beliefs, potentially highlighting some of those aspects. So much mutable. I know. Uranus and Scorpio, 5th house, moon's in Cancer. Okay, so you're good. You're not going to be affected so much by those. You're welcome. Leo sun, Scorpio moon, Sag rising. Okay, so your rising sign may be experiencing an opposition. Sun's going to be moving through there. It's either in your 12th or your 1st. Once it passes into your 1st, that's a nice burst of energy. Hey doll, I have Sun in Taurus, Moon in Aries. You're good. Sun is going to be getting hit by Uranus and North Node, but depends on the degree there. Gemini is in my 7th. So partnerships, relationships, delegation, contracts, agreements, and the overflow of your systems. I feel completely out of ideas right now, so glad to know I'll get out of it hopefully soon. It will get better. It will get better. We just got to make it to like January 12th. Just January 12th. January 12th, because then Mars is direct and that it's still in Gemini. It's going to be in Gemini until March 25th, which is still a crapshoot. But at least we can do something with it. Sun is in Gemini. Jupiter is in Gemini, 12th house. So, okay, that's a big one. Is it a good move to start connecting and showing up through social media, create a challenge-based mindset releasing? You could absolutely leverage that for mindset stuff, for sure. Absolutely. And it will bring you some good luck possibly. Just be cautious a little bit with the Mars energy. Because Mars and Jupiter together, in general, it kind of just propels us forward really quickly, but Mars is retrograde and it's also out of balance right now. And so Jupiter just kind of expands that energy. So, I mean, it could be good, there's positives to that, but it could also make you kind of like overestimate capability. So just be a little cautious with that. You're welcome. That explains a lot. Feeling tons of clarity. I'm so glad to hear that. Hub's moon is in Virgo. Sun is in Sag. What? Okay, so his moon's getting potentially squared and his sun is having a solar return, which is also possibly opposing this. So you'd want to check out the houses for those. Hey, Joy. Mars is opposing natal Mars. 3rd to 9 axis intercepted. Can you speak on this? A lot of frustration for you around your marketing, around what you're teaching, the focus of the business potentially is going to be a big one. Definitely wait until Mars goes direct. It'll still go back and end up opposing your natal Mars for a little while in there. You may have potentially just a lot of like spinning wheels between now and the end of March. It's also a low point for you as well. So it's going to be like, it's the lowest part of your Mars energy is going to be happening right now. So pace yourself out. Don't try to take on big projects. At least slow and steady wins the race pretty much is the best way to approach that, at least until it passes. Hey, Christina, Gemini sun in 3rd house, 29 degrees. This will not be hitting you there. That's good. Aquarius moon, 29 degrees, 11th house. A sun in Aries, 19 degrees. You are good. You are good. This is not going to be hitting those anyway. It will happen somewhere in your chart, but it's not going to hit your sun, your moon, or your ascendant. Hi, I got on late. I have a Gemini moon at 17 in the 5th. Of course you do. I wish I could see your name. You know me, but I can't see who you are. 17 degrees, this is going to be hitting you directly in your 5th house of creation. Directly. You're already probably been feeling a lot of frustration in there because of Mars retrograde. This potentially opens some stuff up. If you don't resist and you allow yourself to kind of work at your own pace behind the scenes, you could end up coming up with something really great there. Mars in Aries, 10th house. You don't have to worry about where your Mars is so much, just if you have anything in Gemini and Sagittarius mainly. Or if you've got, Virgo or Pisces, because those are going to be getting squared. You're welcome, Joy. Scorpio moon. Yeah, I think you're good. You're good. Eek. I don't know what that is. I've got Scorpio moon in my 5th house. It's not going to be hit by this. It won't be hit by this. So you're good. You're good. Okay. Do we have any questions so far other than what I just answered about what we've got going on? Mars is retrograde in my 11th and 12th house. So that's your community and your deeper psychological stuff. That you've got going on there. So lots of reworking possibly. I'd be careful with social media while that's happening because you can get into arguments or fights or misunderstandings or whatever. It also can make your energy get really distracted on social media, so just be careful with that. In terms of 12th house, don't be so hard on yourself as much as you can. It's hard because 12th house, we're not aware of how hard we are on ourselves. We're just like that. But it'll be felt a little bit more for you in that way. Yeah, so there's some other things coming up too I want to talk to you guys about, and I'll also show you where the Mars eclipse is going to be taking place. I'll show you how to find it where you are located as well. If it's going to be happening for you, you can find out the time. But before I do that, I've been getting lots of questions about Cosmic Planet Extravaganza 2023. It is our 5th annual. It's going to be happening on solstice, December 21st. If you guys are looking for tickets to that, I will be posting those soon. If you're in the lab, it's included. If you're interested in joining the lab, now is the best time. We have extended my Black Friday discount for regular lab enrollment to Tuesday, technically Monday evening, very late. So if you guys are interested in joining that, the links are in the email that I just sent out, but I'll also post them in here after because I can't post links right now. It just won't let me. But if you guys are interested in joining us, this is the best time to do so because you're going to get Cosmic Planet Extravaganza. You're going to get the Moonsite Digital Calendar Duo 2023. You're going to get the planners that are included as well, Moonsite Planner for this year. And you're going to get Moonsite Launch 2.0. You're going to be getting all the workflows that I talked about in Astroflow. All that stuff is going to be in there. And Moonsite Social is also coming. So you're going to be getting all of that stuff to help you plan. And we get to plan together because there's a quarterly planning call actually coming up. So if you guys plan to join, I think our quarterly planning call, I want to say is the 12th. It's coming up. It might be I think it's the 19th. That's our quarterly planning call for the new year. And then we've got Cosmic Planet Extravaganza on the 21st. So lots of stuff coming if you guys want help planning all that stuff out. Hey, Marianne. You're welcome. What is happening with the financial institutions in the next year? I did a whole training on that. It was the Cycles for CEOs event, and I went through all of that stuff up until 2025. We are going to see some big stuff. How each thing is going to be affected is a little different because we would want to look at like the astrology charts for each of them. But we're halfway through. We're halfway through the currency changes and stuff that we're going to see. We're also, through the nodal cycle, we are at a transition point in the nodal cycle and we're entering a low. So in terms of like currency valuations and stuff, we're at the transition point. We're not at the lowest low. That's going to be like, let me see how many, 4.5 years, 5 years from now is the very low. And then it will pick back up again. But we're at a transition point where everything is changing. So that's why there's so much uncertainty, which is totally uncomfortable for all the Taurus in the chart that we got going on. You're welcome. I love the calendars. So happy I'm in the lab as I've got them up. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I wish I knew who you were. I can't see shit. Will you be selling digital calendar a la carte? Yes, it's available on moonsiteplanner.com right now. So the PDF versions are not up yet, but the Google Calendar is. And Cosmic Planning Extravaganza will also be sold individually if you guys want that. And that comes with cheat sheets as well. Can you elaborate on the offer and share what the event on the solstice is about? I give you 12 months of cheat sheets, including all of your launch dates, all of your marketing promotion dates. And I break down every single day of the year in a 3 to 4 hour event. So you get the PDF cheat sheets and we walk you through your whole plan in there. So we go through every astrological event, every like lunar cycle by lunar cycle by lunar cycle. So that is done every year, and that's going to be done again on solstice this year. So you'll get the whole thing. I wasn't sure if my name showed up. No, it's not. It wasn't showing up. You're welcome. Yeah. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We're going to get to do it. So I'm going to send out an email about it. I was hoping to have it ready for you guys today, but I didn't. I had a baby that needed to sleep, so it's not ready. But it will be ready for probably in the next couple days. But if you're in the lab, it's included. You don't have to pay for that. So it is definitely going to be worth what we're going to be diving into, because we're also experiencing a lunar node shift next year, midway through, and that's going to change everything in terms of markets, everything for the next 18 months. So there's a big shift in how we're going to be doing our marketing. It's a lot less fluffy. And it's a lot less taking time to kind of where we're dancing around the bush in our copy, not happening in the middle of next year. It's going to be a big giant shift of a lot of clear CTAs, very clear, very short runways for offers, short, small offers as well are going to do a lot better. So big shift in there. So excited to be in the lab participating in the Cosmic Planning Extravaganza. Why do you do them on solstice? Good question. It is the day that the sun moves into Capricorn. So in terms of us planning, it's like the very best day to plan your long-term plans for the year. And so the benefit of it is that Mercury and Moon are also in there pretty soon, either just before or just after. And so we have just this nice complete alignment under Capricorn, which is what empires are built under. So the foundations, the very root foundations of your business are built under that. So we want, and the other thing with Capricorn energy is that it's resourceful and it doesn't exaggerate. So when we're trying to make plans, we want to kind of, drill down to the very essence of what we want. We want to make it from a really practical place. We want to be really very clearly aware of what our resources are, what our time commitments are. And that's what you're going to be doing under Capricorn, right? It's also, from a solstice perspective, is the longest night of the year. So we're focusing on what we want to create for the next year under that energy, which I think is just really great. Yay. If you did cycles for CEOs, is it going to be discounted if repeated? No, it's really cheap. My cycles for CEOs are like $27 and they're like a 2-hour thing. And in some cases you get like workbooks and stuff with them. There is the occasional extended offer in there that's like $47, but I think most of them have all been like $27. Super cheap. And I think if you go into Mystic Business School and you click on the Cycles for CEOs one, I think that would be the Uranus and Taurus one. That you can just click right on there, and I think you can just purchase it right through there. If you can't, though, send me a message through, Holy crap. support@moonsiteplanner.com. And I can make sure that I get it to you. Short and direct due to Aries node. Yes. We're shifting away from, like, Aries is very much action oriented, but it's also very survival oriented, and it's also very impulsive. So there's lots of beginning of new things, but there's a beginning of new things due to a necessity. So that's going to be happening starting July of next year. So we've got another, just about 6 months of this Taurus energy, which is like where we don't want to do a lot of changes. We're kind of focusing on stabilizing. But if you've been struggling with like making long-term changes, that's why. Where it's very hard to change what our habits are this year. So middle of next year, that's going to change, and it's important in terms from a marketing perspective that you have offers that help people to get places quickly, and that you very clearly articulate what those are, especially smaller end offers as well. Okay. So no monthly subscription boxes, but just single orders. I'm not sure what you mean, hun. Sorry. Are you talking about the lab? Or are you talking about your offers? Or I was totally waiting for this, and then I got pulled into schoolwork with the kids. No worries. Replay will be up. You can come back if you want. Margot, welcome. Yes, solstice is the best day. I've been wanting to restructure how I offer products, and was going to finally do recurring product order. Okay. You can do it. I'm not saying anything against subscriptions at all. What you want to be really clear on, though, is that the offer itself helps them to do something really specific, right? That's very much going to be Aries energy. When moon is in Aries, I overspend. I think this might be confirmation of my Aries moon from a rectified chart. Absolutely. Yeah. The moon sign is how you nurture yourself. So, yeah. And it could depend as well what house your moon is in. Those things will have a play. Did you guys want me to show you who's going to, like, the timing for the moon Mars eclipse? Right, where the moon is going to go in front of Mars. Do you want me to show you where that is and like the times? Great, I'm on track still. Yes, you are. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me know. Yes, please. Okay, cool. I'm going to go and I'm going to find it. It's this one. Okay, let me get rid of this one. Where is it? No. Not that one. Where is it? Okay. Chrome. There we go. Okay. So I think I have to here we go. All right. So here, this date's correct. You would choose your location. For some reason, it's choosing Ann Arbor. That's not where I am. You can change your location in here. This is the app is in-the-sky.org. And then it is, sorry, I'm going to go back one. Is it going to do it? You can just click on this, and you can click, I think it's going to give you lunar. What is this? Sorry. There should be something in here for lunar occultations. Where are you? It's telling about it here. I'm just going to see if we can find the button, because it's not showing the... I can't put the link up as easy. Moon and Mars. Might be under here. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to find that lunar occultations thing. Let me go back. One more. We want this one. It's like under the button that the end of the link I was just under, but then you click lunar occultations. I wish I could put the link up here as easy, but I can show you where it's going to be occurring anyway. So what we'll do is I'll click to change location, and I'm just going to choose closest to where I am. I'm going to do it. right, let's just choose Austin. There we go. Okay, sorry. All right, so what this will do, yeah, it's literally what we were just looking at, but it shows the night sky here, and if we go down a little bit, it should show the map. Where's the map? Where's the map? Ah, what's it doing? There's a map just so that we can see where it's happening in the world. Why is it not showing it? Sorry, guys. I can't show it to you because I can't find it. But there's essentially, it's going to be most of the US and a little bit of the UK. I wish that I could find it on here though. I just had it open. This is in the night sky. Oh, I think I can click. Can I click this one? No. Crap. I cannot find it. That's the location. Sorry, I totally messed up, guys, because I didn't send myself the right link I had open. If you want to play around on here, you can probably find it for yourself. But Mars in opposition. Yeah, it had a map and everything. Darn it. Anyway, I know that it's occurring at, I think it's like 8:52 p.m. Pacific. And if you're in most of the United States and the UK, you'll probably get to see it if you just convert that time over. But what you're going to see is we'll see Mars in the sky, and then we're going to slowly see the moon kind of move in front of it. And it'll take, I think it takes about an hour-ish before we see Mars will come out the other side. So it's pretty neat to see. It's basically like a Mars eclipse if you want to witness it. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What do you pick as the location to draw the chart you use on this call? I picked San Antonio, which is CST. I'm currently just out, I'm in between San Antonio and Austin. And I wish I could see who you are. I'm sorry, I'm in the US right now. I just did a search for lunar and it pulled up options and showed the map. If you did not put, oh, you probably figured it out then, damn it. Thank you very much for sharing the link, Marina. I appreciate that. Yeah, so basically it shows the map over like most of the US, I think all of it, almost all of it, and then like part of the UK. We'll get to see it before because it needs to be nighttime and it needs to be within that time frame of when their positions are kind of crossing. I'm not sure. If you go to in-the-sky.org and you look, they'll be on their main page. I think it says like Mars. It's like Mars, Moon. What does it say? Close approach of the moon and Mars. That's another one. And then there's, yeah, Mars at opposition might show it, but the close approach of the moon and Mars will probably show it for sure. And this is, again, this is astronomical, not astrological. But if you want to see it, it's there to see. Okay, so how are we doing so far, guys? Are we good? Are we good? Do we have any questions? I'm happy to answer anything else about this if you'd like. We also do these all the time, these type of calls, and I combine them as well with intuitive business coaching, so you get a little bit of what we do with this as well, like what do we do after, like how do I apply this inside the lab. So for any of the lab members around this, you guys are familiar with this, but I'm also usually have I'm a little more organized than this with this freaking link. Where are we at here? Sorry. Thank you, Laura. Very cool. Do you do one-on-one? I do if you're in my lab. The only reason I say that is because usually when I'm working with clients, we're using this system. So we're using the moon site planning system, and it's a huge giant waste of time for both of us if you don't have access to the materials inside the lab, because we don't want to use a call to have me teach it to you, right? Like if you can go through the videos much shorter inside the lab and have a working knowledge of that, then when you come into a call, I can help you, right? Because you understand how to use the system, and we're literally able to like hit the ground running. So I don't do one-on-one unless you've been in the lab and you're familiar with the system, just because it's just so much easier to just connect you with what's in there, and then we can utilize that a lot better. For chart planning, yes, as long as you're in the lab. So there's a couple options right now too. If you decide to join the lab, one of those packages, the full moon package, includes a one-on-one with me included. Which is 90 minutes. Otherwise, I have like a lab discount inside for lab members for one-on-one. If you want that support, that additional support. You're very welcome. Okay, guys, I think this is everything. I hope that you found this helpful about the full moon and what we're kind of experiencing. Again, keep in mind in terms of what we're navigating right now, like if you're struggling with focus, if you're struggling with productivity, if you're struggling with low energy, if you feel burnt out, if you're not sleeping well, if your nervous system or your anxiety is like really, really heightened, it is not you, it's what we're going through astrologically right now. It is going to pass. It's going to get a little bit easier, probably starting, I would say when the moon enters Cancer, but I can give you the exact time on that too. That's going to be not tomorrow. Void moon, Friday. Friday, and Cancer moons are a little tough in general, but if you use them for rest and self-care rather than caring for everybody else, you'll be able to use it to replenish yourself. But basically, between now and Friday is going to be a little rough. And then even beyond that, as long as we're having Mars in Gemini retrograde, our energy is going to be extremely low, and we're just not going to have tons of energy to manage. So we have to get really, really specific about what you are focusing on, right? So you don't want to have a massive to-do list. It's just going to add to the overwhelm, right? You want to pick small things, and they could be bigger projects, but we're breaking it apart. You don't want to break it apart to the point of like you're completely overwhelmed where like 3 things turns into 500 things. But we do want to kind of break it apart enough to be able to estimate time. And that's a very difficult thing to do right now. As you remember in the chart with this full moon, it's squaring with Neptune, which is making time, or the concept of time, incredibly difficult. What we are being helped with this is that it is trining Saturn. So what you do commit yourself to, you will make progress on. Right? So if we're doing it, if we're being intentional about what we're choosing, and we're able to estimate that time so that we're not sitting down with a massive to-do list and we don't know how long we're going to be there, that's very hard to manage. You're going to be really defocused. You're going to be jumping all over the place. You're not going to hit your targets of what you want to accomplish because it's just going to feel like it's too much, right? Like when you sit down, you might as well be there for like 9 hours, right? Because you don't know how long it's going to be. So if you get really specific about what do you want to accomplish each day and how much time you think those things are going to take, and getting a little more flexible about how much time that actually is, because again, we're off on the estimations. So what you might think might take you 20 minutes or an hour could take you an hour and a half or 2 hours, right? So if we can overestimate a little bit there, then if you have extra time, you just start the next task or whatever it is that you've got to do a little earlier. But then you'll feel ahead, that gives you some wins. But if you only estimate a certain amount of time and that time is not enough, you're going to feel a lot of stress towards the end of that task. And that's not what we want to be doing under this energy. We do not want to amplify the anxiety that we already have. The other thing is setting really realistic expectations for yourself. Knowing that we're hitting the end of the year, that can apply some pressure. Knowing that we're going to be moving into Mercury retrograde, knowing that Mars is going to be retrograde until January 12th, and it's still going to stay in Gemini all the way up until March 25th. This is here to help us to micromanage our energetic resources, including our mental energy. So the other thing that's really helpful is when you do compartmentalize your tasks and you estimate like that, when you close your computer at the end of the day, you're turning off because you've committed to certain things. You've already estimated how long that's going to take. And then you know that you can walk away because you completed what you needed to complete. The reason that work tends to stay with us a little bit longer is because we're not giving ourselves that sense of completion. We're not giving ourselves that sense of closure because we've packed too much stuff, and every day we're ending that day feeling like we're behind, right? So a lot of it has to do with expectations. So if we can shift that, that's really going to help you a lot moving forward. The other thing in terms of focus is give yourself variety. Under this energy, we actually need variety. So that means that, you know, if you're using Pomodoros or something like that, so you can give your brain little micro breaks, get up, walk around, go for a walk, listen to some different kind of music, you know, give yourself a time limit of 5 minutes to surf the internet between your tasks, whatever it is that you need to do to meet that need for variety so that you don't kind of start to zap out is also going to be really, really helpful. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I will hopefully see you guys in the lab. Again, a quick reminder that it is at a discount to join only up until the end of day on Monday. You're getting it in lab at the very lowest price. Once you join, you get access to the whole Moonsite planning system. You get access to Moonsite launch. You get access to the upcoming cause and planning extravaganza, all the digital calendars, the planners, the systems, the flow, everything in there, plus all of our planning calls are going to be included. And I get to support you inside because you can post your chart with your transits and your offers inside of there and get feedback. So hopefully I get to do that with you guys inside the lab if you're not already in there. And if you are planning on joining in for Cause and Planning Extravaganza, I will be sending an update out about that shortly. And in the meantime, if there's any other questions, you're welcome to post them in here, even if you're watching this on the replay, and I'm happy to come back and answer over the course of the next day or so. But thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you soon.